Hi, today's devotion comes from the 60th chapter of Isaiah, verse 20. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Now, I'm guessing you have some idea that this chapter of Isaiah is about the future of the nation of Israel and the role it will play in God's plan. It speaks of the variety of ways God will honor his people and the tasks before them in that future. By extension, it speaks of connection and commitment on both sides to make the relationship such that this promise will be fulfilled. It is an example of the gifts of the Lord being delivered pretty much exclusively in the temporal world and for the temporal body, individual, and nation. We know as Christians that while God may gift us in the temporal realm, the true treasure of relationship is only revealed in the spiritual realm. However, God always speaks in a way that is meaningful to those he is addressing. I've spoken about the individualism that God has gone to great lengths to create. Each of us is different, unique. The world is full of variety. All of it speaks to the innate concept of diversity and individualism that God must cherish to go to such trouble. I want to have you focus on that for the moment so you understand just how important a unique and individual connection that we have with this God, our Dad, is. He speaks to each of us differently. I've pointed out that I see him speaking to me in the fiction novels that I read and through the monologue discussions that I have with Dad. This is no accident, and it is not unique to me that God speaks in a way that I can hear him. He does that for you also. It simply remains for you to be listening in order to hear him. I admit it has taken time for me to understand I'm hearing him in these ways. But rest assured, the more you practice not just talking to Dad, but listening for his response, the better you will become at being able to hear him. Now to the verse itself. This is specific for the nation of Israel, but it is indicative of how God works in all things. Everything God does has a time to it for us. This is somewhat of a paradox. As you no doubt recall, I contend that God is, quote, out of time, end quote, meaning he exists beyond the flow of time, having created time as the method in which events are revealed to us in the temporal realm. The paradox being God does all things in their proper time, even as he is not subject to the concept of time. This is but another way in which the awesomeness and omnipotence of God is exhibited and is yet beyond our comprehension. Thus, events, gifts, consequences, etc. are revealed in our timeline as to when they are supposed to for the effect God intends. We do not get information ahead of time that we do not need or would simply cloud the issue of our minds. God is notorious for parceling out information in small, focused streams that confound us with just-in-timeness. We want the control of knowing what we are getting into, and it doesn't matter the situation, team play, school studies, family, love relationship, societal connection. We crave that control and knowledge. Wasn't that our original downfall? Eating from the tree of knowledge? And God knows how wrong we can go with knowledge we do not have the ability to comprehend. An example of this is relationship. I want what I want from you. You want what you want from me. What we don't always understand, and maybe never completely, is how so many others are connected to us in our actions and what we want can and will do to affect them. God does know this. He is fully aware of how every thread in the tapestry of creation connects to and interacts with every other thread in that picture. What we want and have been promised in my case must wait for the right time to not adversely impact others. Not only are we talking about family members, friends, and co-workers, but we impact people we don't even know. It might remind you of my ripples from my path vision, which we've talked about before. Each step we take has the potential to affect the whole world. That is a very complex interactive web, and only God knows when to pull on each thread to get the desired results. We can never know this, as our ability to comprehend even in the temporal timeline is limited by our brain power. We need not even try to warp our minds with the extratemporal implications of each step we take, and those are far more reaching and profound than any in our temporal realm. The other extremely important lesson in this verse is who has the power. I've said it before, and it bears repeating. Only God actually has any power. All power comes from the Creator, period. Any we think we have is derived from Him. Now, you may have said you do not think this power can be delegated. I think that's merely an issue of semantics or definition. God may grant us use of some of His power at times, or He may actually delegate it, as He did to Jesus by Christ's own words in Matthew 28:18. The point remains that only God has any power. It all emanates from Him, and how it is manipulated, used, or borrowed is merely individualized definitions of the fact that God must allow His power to be used by others. The power remains His. So we see God telling Isaiah He will make it happen. All things come from God. He makes them happen. You can couch this in any way that makes it real in your mind, but God is omnipotent, all-powerful. That means regardless of how we perceive the goodness or badness of things, they happen or exist only at God's deference. We cannot understand why bad things happen to good people, or why evil is alive and well in our world. But if we believe as we say we do, all things happen through God's will. There are reasons we don't understand or consequences we can't comprehend. And let's be honest, our measure of right and wrong, good and evil, is simply not God's measure. And I, for one, am really glad God knows more and understands the threads of creation better than I do. For if I could outthink God, what kind of God would He be? I would be on par with Him. I can't create. I can't even think 5 chess moves ahead accurately. Gee, who would want God no smarter than that? In His own time, He will make it happen. All I can say is, thank God. Let's pray. Father, for the time that you give us, we do thank you. For the fact that all things happen in their time and in the way that you would have them in that time, we give you thanks. Help us to remember that we are not in control. The power is yours. The timeline is yours. We have but to walk the path that you've given.